Hello, I'm Evan here. I'm gonna get right into this video. This is gonna be an emotional health video, and and really, this is gonna be like the emotional health video. Um, essentially, I'm going to give you my mental health story, the abridged version, um, or the Spark Notes version, as some people call it. Either way, up, and I've got my note source, Monica here, my trusty Fire tablet. I got Tenzin, who's my phone, who's also doubling as my camera. And so, yeah, I'm going to try to stick to the script this time. And this time it's actually more notes than script. So it's probably going to go faster. Anyways, oh, also before I start, um, I certainly believe that it's worth noting that I am autistic, which I don't see as a disorder so much as just a difference in brain wiring. And the fact that I am autistic also affects the way that I am able to communicate with you. And so I often tend to communicate atypically, and I mean, that's more so for your FYI. That's more so for your information. And hopefully now you have enough information on whether you want to stay on this video or not. I think a trigger warning is in order for like depression, anxiety, trauma, thoughts of not wanting to be here anymore. All the different things. I've been through so much, and so and emotional abuse, and so yeah. So I'm excuse me. I've got my water right here. and so, and so armed with that knowledge, I believe that you have enough information to decide whether you want to stay and watch this video, or to go to someone, eh, eh, or to go somewhere else, or to some other video. The choice is up to you. Meaning you can listen to as much or as little um, of what I have to say as you want. Now then, um, so my first experience with like overall emotional health concerns probably started in late 2001, sometime around 9/11. In the sense that like I was about 3, 4 at that time, and and the thing about that time is that the thing about that time is that I don't have very many visual memories of that day, but I can still feel the emotion of that day because I was at school and I could feel my teachers, and then like after I got picked back up from school, I could feel the anxiety in my parents and all the different things that happened that day. And it was understandable. I'm not sure how well they understood their own emotional situations on that day and in the days preceding. But the thing is that 9/11 like left a lasting effect on me in the sense that it sort of introduced me to anxiety of a more like severe or starting off as moderate, but eventually growing to a more severe bent. Um, yeah, and then fast forward to 2007, I was diagnosed as being autistic, which at the time it was advertised to, which at the time was advertised to my family and I as being a disorder, as being a bad thing, as being something that needs to be fixed. When really, at the end of the day, what I would end up finding out almost a decade later is that honestly, the label of autism, or calling myself autistic, is more so just a way that we as humans have come up with to label people with a certain type of different neurology, of different brain wiring. Um, I mean, really, at the end of the day, what you find out is that the world. I'll speak for myself. In case you're watching this in the future and things and things have gotten exponentially better, like um like eh, like I have faith that they will. Um, I was born into a world that wasn't built to handle people um who were wired the way that I am. And so and the thing is that like on top of being a young African American man, on top of being a smart man, on top of being a very wise young man, on top of being all these different things that people didn't expect me to be in the sense that they didn't expect those sorts of things out of a child. Um, it scared a lot of the adults and authority figures in my life. And it's funny because oftentimes, in hindsight, like I could tell that they were afraid to admit that they were afraid of something about me. And sure, it's like people think that and people think that fear only looks one way, but the thing is that the only reason that people think fear looks multiple ways is because like what they're seeing is people trying to ignore their fear, trying to push and trying to suppress their fear by doing something about the thing that they fear. In this case, it would be doing something about me as if I was a problem, like to them. And in the eyes of a lot of different people in my life, like I was like both problem and solution and like golden child and like problem child in the sense that it's like I said in my like videos um about my keto life, like which I'll throw a link down in the description, like for that playlist. The thing is that like throughout my life, like what I've found is that society doesn't really know what to make of me as a person. And so a lot of people are really like on the if I try to gain my perception of myself like from how the world perceives me, essentially it ends up being very confusing because like I get really conflicting signals in the sense that people don't really know what to make of me. um and and what's worse is that they're not open about the fact that they don't know what to make of me, which means they're not communicating that fact to me. That's And so basically that set the stage for like the way that the world would treat me and the way that the world would mistreat me. Like in the sense that it would literally kind of drive me mad. Um, it gets better at the end of this, trust me. um, yeah, so that was like elementary school going into middle school, and then eh, and then I didn't find out that I was autistic until maybe a couple years after I was actually diagnosed. And essentially, what happened there, in a sense, in a sense, and essentially, what happened there was that, um, was that the thing, the thing is that the thing is that like my caregivers were sort of on the fence on whether I should know or not. And it makes sense because like based on the way that being autistic was described to them by the people who diagnosed me, it makes perfect sense as to why like they didn't want me to like over identify with something positive to over identify with something negative, um and just sort of like and to sort of do anything to limit myself. But the thing is that on some level I already knew that I was different. All that I was missing was a label. And so really it's like if you're a parent of an autistic person watching this and you haven't like let them know yet and you're sort of on the fence about it, I would say as soon as you can, like let them know exactly like what name has been given to their specific type of different, because it certainly changed the way that I looked at things. And the sooner that they're able to wrap their heads around it and to know that there's like some label out there that can help them to understand it slash themselves, like their own neurology, like to a certain extent, like the sooner that they can begin to process and understand exactly what their position in the world is. And then from there, like that puts them in a strong position of choice. Like they can do something about it, and become activists like I am, or they can or they can do nothing with it, or they can just try to like work, and they can just try to work their way through their lives and just like try to change the situation, like for the better in their own particular way. And so the thing is that at the end of the day, like I implore every caregiver, every caregiver of an autistic person to like let them know, like it's as soon as you possibly can, because like if I had more time to process, I think things would have been different. I'm not sure how much better they would have been, but they would have been different in some calculable ways. Now, that being said, like that's nothing to blame or anything about anyone. Like the thing is that throughout my life, every single person who was eh, like whose care I was placed in, all of them were doing their very best, and I don't fault them for the things that they did anymore. It took me a long time to get there, but the thing is that this isn't this isn't a time where I'm throwing anybody under the bus. Like it's literally just an explanation of what things happen and how we can make things better in the future. Um, and the thing is that like, or and the thing is that I am very strongly of the belief. It helps me to believe that we can't solve a problem if we don't know that there is a problem. And so, yeah, um, yeah. So going into high school, it's like I knew I was autistic. But that being said, it's like I was in a new high school and like I didn't really know anybody. And so the thing is that like my defense mechanism was to use my niceness and my kindness to essentially become everyone's friend so that no one would be my enemy, basically. um, and again, 14-year-old me had a very cunning strategy. Like it was a very positive strategy. It's just that he couldn't have known that it like would end up backfiring like as I got into college, because the thing is that like I put up a facade of like of just all the nice and desirable aspects of me in high school, that people didn't and basically I took special care, eh, and basically I took very special care to make it so those people wouldn't necessarily like perceive me in any sort of bad way. Um, but the thing is that like you can carry that on in high school and it can get you through. But college is really when things start getting real, or more real, in the sense that authenticity certainly ends up playing a much deeper role in how things are. Um, and and as well as like a deeper measure of your success. And so the thing is that like college was really hard for me in the sense that I haven't even like finished college. Um and the main reason I haven't finished college is because of the massive strain that it each time that I went back, like it was because of the massive strain that it like took on my emotional and mental state. And so like freshman year, I sort of limped through that year. Um, and by the end of freshman year, it's like I was learning more about like psychology and anxiety and different things like that. And I was like, huh, like do I have and I started asking myself, it's like and I started asking myself, I was like, do I have anxiety? Is this crazy feeling that I've been thinking about that's sort of been like keeping me like trapped in my bed and like been making it so hard to get to class? Essentially, like that was sort of the thing that I was experiencing and sort of like questioning. And the thing is that, and the thing is that like, and the thing is like the unfortunate part for me in this case was that I was questioning these things like in an environment around people who had never really been taught to question those same sort of things in themselves. And so the thing is that for 5 months they didn't really get it. And the thing is, I tried to get them to understand, but the thing is that like because because there was never any like instruction manual for them on how to help me on how eh, on how my caregivers would help me, whether it be my teachers, my parents, my sister, anybody, my friends at that time, even. The thing is that no one really had an instruction manual on how to help me. And so for 5 months, I suffered and I dealt with a lot of thoughts of not wanting to be here anymore, and even like attempts on my life, like not like major self harm, but just a few like really, 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 really close calls. And so, and so eventually I got, eh, and so eventually I got medically withdrawn from school, and thus began my very first psych hospital visit. And that visit was very I've had I've had two psych hospital visits in my life, and this one was by far the easier of the two, in the sense that I was still very much of the like mindset that I was like, I need these negative energies, these negative emotions to go away. I want a pill to help to shut them up, to help to silence all the crazy stuff going on in my own mind. But and the thing is that like that kind of worked for me, like sort of, but really like what I found out is that like that whole time my emotions were trying to tell me something. Um, all the depression, all the mania, all the dissociation, all the different, or all the anxiety, all the flashbacks, all the different stuff that I was dealing with, all of it was really trying to tell me something. And like I was really like hard at hearing emotionally, particularly at this time in my life. I was around 19 at this time. And so the thing is that basically it's my belief, it helps me to believe that any time that you're experiencing some amount of severe emotional turmoil, it's basically a sign that your mind and your body and your heart are giving you to let you know that something about your life isn't going the way that it should be going, according to your happiness and your preferences and your identity, along with those whom you care about. And the thing is that it's okay if you don't believe this. You don't have to believe anything that I say if you don't want to. And if some of this is resonating, then you can believe as much or as little of it as you want to. It's like I'm not trying to brainwash anybody. I'm not trying to read anybody. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind about this directly. Essentially, I'm just sharing this story just in case it could help somebody. And like that's really at the end of the day all that I'm doing. Like I don't really, and the risk that comes with it, it doesn't really, it's relatively inconsequential to me because 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 the risk of the alternative of not being vocal about these things is even greater. And it's and a lot of people, or and a lot of times people will choose familiar pain over unfamiliar potential joy, because they don't want to deal with the unfamiliarity, because the uncertainty and the fear that something bad will happen, that's happened in the past, that they don't want to happen. um like there's a big fear that it'll come again, but the thing is that when you've suffered as much as I have in my life, essentially that known pain, it becomes a dead end and it keeps you stuck. And so it's like sure, you don't want to go backwards, but the thing is that like you also don't want to stay in the same place. And so the thing is that like sometimes you have to decide what risk in life you're going to take, what calculated risk in life you're going to take to slingshot you forward to where you actually want to be, to where you're living in more alignment with who you are as a person, right? um I'm trying to keep this video succinct as well, and so and so this first hospital visit, 2017, I was 19, almost 20, and the thing is that basically and the thing is that basically I and the thing is that basically um I was very compliant in that hospital, like during that visit, because essentially I didn't want to listen to my body. I didn't want to listen to my feelings. I didn't want to listen to my mind. I didn't want to listen to any part of myself. I just wanted a break from myself. And so it's like all the medications and different things they put me on to that serve to numb my emotions, along with other side effects. Essentially, essentially, like for years, I thought that that was like a worthy sacrifice. But and so and so in 2018, like what I started doing was sort of channeling my emotions and sort of telling my story of my life up to that point, and uh, I'm like I'm like through music. And so the first and so the first eh, and so the first eh, and so after and so after dropping an EP and a mixtape in the previous years before 2018, I dropped my debut album in 2018. And basically I began to tell the story of like my childhood going into my adolescent years, which I talked about in my second album, which was released in 2019. And then 2020 was my very early adult years. And it picks up right and it picks and it and it picks up right after I left the hospital, and basically explained life from like the very end of age 19 all the way like up to when I turned 23. And so like from there, and like by then it was like August 2020 with the pandemic, all these different things. And so from there I had gradually been trying to coax myself to I'm like getting back into college and pursuing my architecture degree and all the different things that I had planned in that I had planned for myself since high school, basically. Um, um, and the thing is that basically I ran into the same sort of problems. Like college was taking far too great a strain on my emotional state and on my mental state and even on my like physical state. I wasn't feeling very good. Like like medically either. Like I wasn't getting like super duper sick or anything like that, but just it was just I just felt a really it's I didn't feel like clinically dizzy. I didn't feel clinically diseased, but I felt a strong sense of dis-ease, like just overall in my being, like while I was trying to apply myself back into while I was trying to apply myself back into my architecture studies. And so the thing is that like I was able to hang in longer than I did before. Um, but it was difficult because I was able to get my scholarships back, but my scholarships weren't designed for me to take a break. And so it really started and so in order to uphold the scholarship, I had to take a huge amount of classes, like in a time when I wanted to really just sort of ease back into it and sort of take my time with it. And so it's like I couldn't really do that, and so it's like eventually something had to give. But the thing is that before anything did give, it's like I was given more medication. And at one point I was, and at one point I was on like six different medications, and then like fast forward to 2022, um, I learned about a lot of different things. I'm not really sure how long this video is. I'm gonna check real quick just to pace myself. Oh, we're doing all right. Okay, cool. Yeah. Um, yeah, so basically dang, I'm making pretty good time. Okay. Dang, way to go, me. Sometimes you got to pat yourself on the back because, or actually most of the time, like you should be patting yourself on the back because small victories that no one's like really gonna like that most people aren't going to commend you for, that's when you have to commend yourself for those. And it's like going through what I've gone through has taught me that, and I impart that knowledge onto you in case it could help you. Either way, yeah. So the thing is that like at one point I was on like six medications, and like by the end of 2021, like they weren't working for me. And it was just, and I found myself backed into a corner again. Oh snap! My Apple Watch is dead. Either way, it's been a long day. The thing is that um the thing is that like like my emotional health symptoms had overwhelmed. Um, I'm still kind of recovering from an eye infection, sort of. It's almost gone, I think. Um, but part of this is kind of like emotion too. But either way, the thing is that the thing is that I got to a point where I was so medicated that my emotional health symptoms started to overwhelm the effects of my medication to where they were basically nullified. uh, and rendered useless despite the relatively high dosages. And so that brings us to the beginning of 2022. I went back to school, but but at the beginning of that semester, I couldn't really bring myself to do any of my studies because it's like because I just knew that if I was going to go any further, like at some point, like something was going to give way and I was going to get hurt somehow emotionally or physically, or I was going to get sick, or something bad was going to happen if I would just tried to keep pushing through. And so the thing is that I decided, okay, like I'm going to choose my own free will to not push through with my studies and instead put every bit of energy that I had left into diving into my pain and diving into my emotions to see what was going on. And it was in this time when I started watching like the second season of Euphoria. And that really helped me a lot because like Rue Bennett and I, like we deal with a lot of the same things, especially on an emotional level. Um, it's just that like she had drugs and I had um, things that weren't hard drugs. um, 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 but the thing is that both of us were really like emotionally in such deep pain, and we weren't. equipped. We didn't have the tools to transmute that pain into something better and more useful, something that wasn't out to destroy us. And so it was in this time that like I not only got into the show Euphoria. Also, shout out to Zendaya. I love her so much, and like that is, to me, that's a career defining role for her. I absolutely love her character as Rue. It's so cool. And the thing is that people who have gone through trauma as significant as I have, like complex post traumatic stress type trauma or childhood post traumatic stress type trauma. It's like her story really makes sense to a lot of people like that. Um, Regardless of what anyone else has to say about the show, like that show is it's hands down one of my favorite shows that's ever graced television. Either way, um, yeah, and then in addition to that, I started going into the teachings of Teal Swan. And Teal Swan, like she's my favorite YouTuber. She's a spiritual teacher. She is an extrasensory person, and she is also and she's also a survivor of severe childhood abuse. I won't get into all of that. Like that's a story that she can tell. I can link her stuff somewhere in this video, probably cards and description. You can pick either one, either way. Um, but basically, the thing is, but basically, the thing is, and I say the thing is whenever I'm trying to collect my thoughts, and so it's more of a filler word. So it's like I invite you to not let that throw you off as much as it might have been. I'm throwing you off before I said that. Either way, um, yeah. So like, and the thing is, I had known about Teal on some level since like 2018. I had seen some of her videos, but they weren't resonating in the same way until 2022. And that's when I really started learning about dissociation and trauma and all the different things that were really at play that my emotions were trying to tell me about. And then by the end of the semester, I hadn't learned anything about the stuff that I had signed up for class wise, but I had learned everything. But I had learned almost everything I ever needed to know about like emotional pain and trauma and how to transmute that trauma. And I started looking into different things of how I could help myself with that. But essentially, what I found out was after the semester ended and I went back home and I decided to not go back to school, at least for a while. The thing is that like what I realized is that the stuff that I was learning, like not everybody was on the same like how like not everybody was on the same like level, in the same sort of how like they weren't on the same wavelength as me in terms of like how to address the problems in my life. Um, um, in the sense that everyone in my support system was really kind of focused on, or almost everyone in my support system was really kind of focused on the fact that I went off my medications. It was like, why would you do that? And then like I was trying to explain to them like why, but then it's like I guess my responses didn't make sense to them, and so they were just trying to make sense of it in their own in their own sort of like less than founded ways. I wouldn't say completely unfounded certainly makes because it certainly made sense to them because they made it make sense out of nonsense. But either way, the thing is that at the end of the day, um, after I left school for the second time, I ended up in the hospital again, and that time was hands down the worst. Um, in fact, there are a couple people in there whom I would actually consider like my abusers, like in life. In the sense that like sure they wouldn't be the only ones, but their atrocities committed against me emotionally and in some cases physically too, and certainly spiritually. the thing is that like the thing is that they didn't really the thing is that because I was like against medication because it had stopped working for me. Essentially, they took me as a threat, and the thing is that and the thing is that the more that I resisted, the more pressure they put on me to force me back on medication, and they over medicate you in the hospital most of the time. They oftentimes they try not to, but oftentimes it's just like oftentimes for the people in psych hospitals, it's a conflict in interest, and I know this because I've been in two separate psych hospitals and I've had two separate experiences. And so, yeah, the thing is, and so the thing is that, it was very difficult, and it was such a crazy blow, to me and my pride and my confidence and just my spirit in general, because the thing is that I was trying to see if I could trust myself being off of medication, like to confront and solve my own life problems. And basically, I was just surrounded by a bunch of people who just weren't with that, eh, who didn't understand that. And the reason they didn't understand it is because they were too afraid to do that same sort of thing for themselves, and they're too afraid of it, not because they're bad, but because no one ever taught any of us how to do that. And the stuff that I learned from people who had to teach themselves how to transmute their own trauma. People like Teal, people like people like Myron Golden, people like Joe Dispenza, people like all these different people like Eckhart Tolle, just like all these different people who have helped me along the way. And so I don't want to harp on 2022 all that much because I feel like you'll get the point. But but at the end of that hospital stay, I was back on medication and I had lost my confidence in myself and my trust in myself because I was just like they I was just like, we failed the mission, basic. And I say we because part of what I learned during that time was about dissociation and just and specifically dissociative identity disorder. And they weren't trying to give me a diagnosis, and I've been pursuing a diagnosis up to this point. And by the time you see this, I'll probably be getting one very, very soon. That being said, an official one very, very soon. And I just wanted a second opinion because honestly, we sort of feel as though we've known since 2022. It's just that it's been a hard sell for a lot of people around us. But thankfully, fast forward to 2024, or the tide has started to shift, and that's kind of what I want to transition into now. So the rest of 2022 going into 2023 was just more of a recovery slash transition period. I was just sort of on the fence on whether I wanted to go directly for what I wanted, or if I wanted to just like let circumstances keep me down or keep me in the same place. Like which I think, which I honestly think is worse than like being held down. I feel like being in the same place is because it's like the thing is that like in this human experience, we're designed to move, and so the thing is, if you're stuck, then everything just feels wrong. Um, Now, so the thing is that 2020, so the rest of 2022 and all of 2023 just sort of built up to this huge crescendo that 2024 has been up to this point, and and that it shows basically no signs of like getting any like worse, and perhaps only getting better, in the sense that basically it's like I started off this year with less medication. That was amazing. And with that, I started to lose a lot more of the weight that I gained from being on medication, which I was really really happy about. And then fast forward to February, Teal Swan has this annual challenge every February called the Self Love Challenge, where through email she basically like issues these journal prompts to help people to understand themselves better and to begin to like sort of cultivate like an understanding that can eventually give rise to a deeper sense of self-love. And and if you make a practice of those sorts of things, then eventually your sense of self-love starts to become more apparent. It's just that like it's just that in the it's just that in the case of self-hatred, it just takes a lot longer for that like self-love to like come back, in the sense that like it's been far removed, and so it just takes more of a practice and more or shadow work as they call it, to like bring that that sense of self-love and self-care back to you as a person. In the sense that even though it felt like it, your love for yourself and your love for anyone, for anyone or anything else you care about, it when you got removed from it, like it didn't leave this world. It was still somewhere inside of your heart. Um, um, and it just felt removed. And so the thing is that sometimes and the thing is like sometimes if you make a practice of like finding things that of 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 unearthing the things, of exhuming and digging up all the things that you buried long ago, that you know that you value about yourself. It's like there's so many different ways to do it. I won't get into like a whole self-love thing now, but like basically like Teal's self-love challenge, like this past February 2024, it basically kickstarted the rest of the year, like along with me being on less medication. I'm not completely medication free now, but either way. And the thing is, the medication is a very stigmatized subject. Um, and that's precisely why I'm talking about it, because like I need people to understand that it's okay to talk about those things. Like it shouldn't be something that you're ashamed of, because it's already painful as it is dealing with like severe emotional health distress. And so it's like, why make it any harder by having to hide and disguise stuff when that just serves to create more dismay and more pain and more distrust potentially. um or or certainly more distrust and potentially more pain. Yeah, and so the thing is that like February was a really positive time for me because of the self-love challenge, and then going into March, that's when inspiration came. Like I put together my first poetry book, and I had half a mind to actually create like a whole trilogy. And if you want to hear more about like my poetry book and different like literary projects that I'm working on, let me know in a comment down below, because it's very telling. It's like a lot of my stuff is very autobiographical, even if it like involves different characters. And so yeah, like either way. Uh, 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 uh. If you're interested and if you feel called to, I invite you to drop a comment down below. If you're interested in hearing more about my story, like in a literary sense, or just more about my story in general, I'd love to let you guys know, because like if in doing this I can give permission to other people to be as open and direct about their pain and their struggles and their triumphs as well, um, then it's like it's all the better for it, as far as I'm concerned. And so yeah, And so this past March, I was like full of inspiration. I was doing literary stuff. I finished my first poetry book, all the different stuff. I haven't published it yet, but like we're still working on that. Either way, that's a story for another video. Um, yeah, and then all through April, and then like through a good portion of May, I got back into music like in earnest for the first time because like after 2020, I sort of took a break from doing a lot of that stuff, and so it was very um it was very reinvigorating and just empowering and beautiful to go back into those things and just be like, oh snap, I am back in. And so I started working on a project that I have no idea when y'all are going to be able to hear. However, um, I'm working on it. It's coming, and honestly, I think it's going to be just bananas. I think it's going to be just bonkers, just insanely good. I love this thing, and I'm not even like halfway done with it. It's so good. Anyways, but yeah, anyway, you heard it here first. Anyways, yeah, and then like the thing is though, of course, like anybody who's like, and of course anybody who struggles emotionally as much as I do, it's like the idea of like applying for disability has come into the conversation, and so it's like I've been working to apply for that, and the thing is that like in May, it was in that time where I really just started to do some bold advocacy stuff. Oh, excuse me. It's like I said, it's been a long day. And this video is probably going to be a lot longer than I wanted it to be, but either way, I just want to get this out, and I'm hoping that I'm keeping you entertained and hopefully inspired too, because this is really the part of my story so far where things have just gotten exponentially better. And so the thing is that like in May, I really stepped boldly and bravely and courageously into my own sense of self advocacy, and really vying for what I wanted, and really advocating for what I wanted. Even if I got a no, I was just like, the thing is that like the greatest love of all by Whitney Houston was like my song during this time, because it was like I decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadow. If I fail, if I succeed, at least I lived as I believe. No matter what they take from me, they'll never take away my dignity. And the thing is that really like I would replace the word dignity in my case with courage and bravery. They can't take that away. Um, now then, so yeah, so bold advocacy was very cool. Um, this past May, and it's July if you're watching this in the future. And basically, like in June, I basically started to go for something that I wanted to go for some 15 years earlier, but I didn't really know how to. I was a lot younger. Like this is around the time that I was diagnosed with being autistic and all the different things. And so from there, basically, basic, basic on June 18th of this year, 2024, I uploaded my very first long form video as an influencer of sorts. I'm not even sure how comfortable I feel like calling myself that, but just the thing is, I'm just someone who has some stuff to say and I want to share it with people. And like that's really all that it is to me. And so and the thing is that like and the thing is that like just today, like I dropped my 31st video in 30 days. And this is going to be like what my 33rd video in 32 days. It's going to be it's just insane like how much things have just changed in just over 6 months, in like 6.5 months. It's just been like insane, and the growth keeps coming. And so I say all that to say that it gets better. It's gonna get better. If it hasn't gotten better, then that's how you know it's not over yet. And I really hope it helps you to believe that as much as it helps me to believe that. And that being said, I don't want you to feel like you have to force yourself to believe something that you don't feel is true. It's the thing is that the thing is that and the thing is that if you want it to be true, it's like I encourage you to experience, or to like acknowledge and set the intention that you want that to be true, and then start to look out in your life to look for proof that like that is the case, that is like what you're going for, that is what you want. I'm not sure if that made sense, but either way, that's something we can talk about in another video. But either way, the thing is, and specifically that in this case would be like manifestation. But either way, the thing is that it gets better, it's gonna get better, and if it hasn't gotten better, it's not over yet. And there's always a choice, even if they're the lesser of two really heavy poisons. It's a sucky choice. I'm not going to gaslight you on that. It is a sucky choice. But I find it far more empowering to choose the lesser of two bad choices than to think that I'm powerless to the situation that I'm in. It really helps me a nearly incalculable amount to believe that. Eh. And now this part is for anyone who feels like this video might have been like too open, too explicit, too any of that other stuff. And the thing is, I have a response to that. Now, if eh, and it goes like this: if you put your cards on the table, not only do you give everyone else around you permission to let themselves do so, you also have nothing to hide, nothing to be shameful about, and also like being in that condition makes it so like that's just one less thing to trip you up subconsciously. And like I always say, you're feeling your feelings are your guide as to what to do in life and what meaning to give every present moment, in such a way that it helps you. And that's also how you know which bad choice is the relative best for you specifically. Like soon enough after following your joy for a while, you find out that the choices don't stay dark, because I was in a really dark place 2016, 2017. But fast forward like 7, 8 years, and like I'm having one of the coolest years of my life up to this point. Like the amount of walls that I've broken down just in the past 6.5 months, it's been insane. And it's like everybody in my life like sees that progress, and it's just like, yeah, and I'm doing that on less medication too. It's like, hey, there's so much there's so much positive stuff to be thankful for. And the thing is that if you're like in an abyss right now, I understand that that's not your reality, and you have no proof that that's the case. Um, um, but for what it's worth, in my experience, and bear in mind I'm human just like you. In my experience, it does eventually get better, and the better it gets, the better it can get. That's something that Teal Swan taught me. Um, and she typically says the better it gets, the better it gets. But the thing that helps me the most is the better it gets, the better it can get, because that still allows for times to get bad again potentially. But the thing is that like more you get to know the darkness, the stronger it makes your capacity for seeing the light, you know? Yeah. So, soon after you're following your joy for a while, you find out that the choices don't stay dark. They get better. Like your life will, if you decide to take care of yourself first. The people who really care for you want you to stick around, and you can only stick around if you take care of yourself. And therefore, it's in both of y'all's best interest for you to take care of yourself and to seek help in the ways that you need it, and to not stop seeking help until you get the help that you think actually helps. And so it's like those people who those people who say that they care for you, but who aren't like showing it like in like a direct way. They just have a funny way. They just have a very funny way of showing that they really do want what is best for you. And no one else can answer that for you. Only you can do that for yourself. That's really what I learned in my experience. Like Natasha Bedingfield got it right. Like feel your feelings, and it's like feel the rain on your skin. No one else can feel it for you. No one else can answer like what is best for you for you. Like only you can like get that guidance from your feelings, because no one's feeling your feelings as directly as you are but you. um yeah, and so like only you can answer the question of what is best for me, what do I desire, as Alan Watts says. um I'm not really going to link any other videos per se. It's like something might pop up or something like that, like just like here or something, but either way, the thing is that I want you but the thing is that I want to leave you with this. I love you. I think you're awesome. I am so glad that you exist among us, and I will see you soon. Okay? Bye.